I'm Rob Spirko, and I'm running for School Board, County School Board District 4. Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a few years. And now that my kids have kind of gone through the whole system, I've got a perspective on it from beginning to end. And I'm a teacher myself. I teach at UT. And so I'm also seeing the students, Blount County students, alongside students from all across the country, kind of on that end of things. And I'm really seeing our students have a lot of challenges ahead of them in the world today. And I want to make sure that we are doing everything we can in Blount County to get them ready for those challenges. I've just really, my heart had been going out to them over and over, especially as all the stressful things have been happening in our society lately. And so, are we doing everything we can to make sure that they thrive and that they can have the lives they want to have? And so that's really kind of what got me up and motivated to do this. Well, several things. I was thinking the other day, I started kindergarten right after the IDEA Act passed in the 70s. I'm hard of hearing. It was not guaranteed that I would be able to go to school, that the school would accommodate me. And so, I'm well aware of how policies and things like that can make a real difference in kids' lives. And so I'm bringing that perspective, I've done some work lately for my national church organization around our statement of mission and purpose. And not only have I seen some great leadership, right, some national level leadership that, I was thinking, how can I bring this back to my community? But also, some of the things we proposed were challenging for people. They didn't want to make any changes. And so I've been yelled at by people that I'm obligated to love, and that I have to figure out how to stay in community with. And that seems like a valuable skill in today's political environment. So not everybody has that experience or has that kind of training, and I thought I could bring that to the table here. And then finally, I think I teach first-year students writing and research. And one of the skills I have developed is that ability to take a lot of information, to find out context and understand complex ideas, and then boil that down in ways that people can understand. And I think that can be really useful both to my colleagues on the school board and to the general public. I think the critical one is listening, right? You've got to be able to listen to a lot of sides, right? The way it's set up, you've got kind of the students in the center, right? You've got families, you've got teachers, you've got the community and business partnerships and things. And then you've got local and state and national level systems and policies. And the school board's kind of in the middle of all that. And so they've got to take all of this stuff, right, and figure out how to make the decisions, that empower these students, right, that support these students. And so being able to listen to all of that, I think is crucially important. And then to make decisions that are not necessarily going to please everybody. I think when you try and please everybody, you make some poor decisions, right? But to make decisions that have integrity, that are sound, and that take into account the values of the community and the needs of the students and the parents and families beyond that. I think making sure we treat all students the same, whether honestly they are gay or straight, rich or poor, black, white, brown, whatever. I think, making sure we are not defining students as the problem, right? And supporting them, right? Honestly, letting them be who they are and finding ways to support them and to reflect back the diversity of the world to them in a way that they can process and understand their place in, right? And I think that comes down, ultimately, I think we've got to trust our teachers more, honestly. I think a lot of the stuff about like book banning, to be honest, and some parents wanting to control what other parents' kids can read is an issue, but it comes down to they don't trust the teachers, right? The parents know their kids, right? But I'll be, honest, teachers see a side of our kids that we don't always see, right? And so that's why it's got to be a partnership between the parents and the teachers. And you've got to trust the teacher as a part of that to know what your kid's ready for, what they need, what they don't need. These kids are ready for this, these kids are ready for that. And I think trying to micromanage that shows a lack of trust, right? But, these teachers are trained, they're educated, they have experience in this. They've seen a lot of students over the years usually, right? I think we should trust that expertise a little bit. And I think we over-test, honestly. I think all this, I'm all for accountability, but I think a lot of these tests show that we don't trust our teachers to teach our kids, right? And they just add stress and anxiety to a classroom. I know I've heard stories about kids being so stressed out on test days and all this sort of stuff. I think we've got to find other ways to make sure we measure this. I mean, it's like BMI, right? BMI is great for body mass index, great for national health studies, right? Understanding big issues. They're terrible for individual people, right? I mean, my BMI says I should be 70 pounds. I'm not slender, I will say that much. But, I would be skin and bones if I weighed 70 pounds less than I do, right? I'm a stocky guy. Same thing for testing. I don't think that one single test should determine whether a kid goes from 3rd grade to 4th grade. I think we need to trust the teachers more and the parents to work together to help decide what's best for that student. So that's the kind of thing. I think that finding ways to not over-test and, honestly, if we invested half the money we spend on some of these tests in empowering teachers, we'd have better outcomes across the board. I mean, I think part of it is being available and being available outside of meetings, right? Finding ways to have real dialogue in certain settings, whether that's just setting up at a coffee shop for a couple hours and having people be able to talk to you, or events at schools and things like that. Making sure information is more public and easier to access, on the web. But even that, there's a difference between putting information out there and making information understandable and accessible to people. And I think we could do a lot more in terms of helping people see what are the pros and cons, what are we actually discussing at some of these meetings, right? What are the pros and cons of these issues? What are the trade-offs we're making? So that, both the board members and the public can understand what some of the stakes are a little better, giving us the context and the, it's never about just the fact, right? But what does that fact mean in that larger society and context? And I think we can do better on that. I mean, I think there are a lot of them. I mean, I think this erosion of trust I mentioned earlier is one. Honestly, I think in Blount County, it's growth. Right? Are we planning enough for the growth that we are seeing and that we are going to see? Right? Are we ready for that? I think we need to think real carefully. And, it's going to take resources. How do we generate those? How do we manage those? So I think that's a key one. I think, I've mentioned over-testing. I think that is a challenge. I think ensuring that we are able to do well, right, and have that accountability, but not put extra work on students and teachers, extra pressure on the system to get there. And honestly, here's the thing. We don't know what the challenges and crises are going to be. If you had asked a school board candidate in 2019 what the big challenges of that next year are going to be, they would not have said pandemic, right? We don't know what's all coming down the pike, right? I mean, I can tell you one thing, is AI is a game changer in a lot of ways. I think we need to be talking more about that. But we don't even know what that's going to do, how that's going to affect the kids who are coming into kindergarten now. When they step out as seniors, what world they're going to face. So what we've got to do is build trust, build relationships, build a resilient system that can be ready to absorb whatever shocks we get. That we have control over. We don't know everything that's going to hit us. And so I think that is actually one of the big jobs of the school board and the system right now, is to make ourselves ready for whatever it is that we're going to need to deal with.